Good morning, everybody. It's Friday, July 24th. I'm very glad you all are with us. Hope you all had a great week. So today for our agenda, we're going to start out with success stories. Hopefully we have hopefully somebody on the call has landed and can tell us some good news. We'll then go to 30-second introductions. I'm moving this up from the back of the session to the beginning. So I want everybody to put their details in, and I'll go over that in just a few minutes. We'll then go to community reports, talk about workshop, job fairs, pit crew, interview, success workshop, and the career tip of the week. And then we will have our main event. Let's see here, then have the main event. Okay, so for those of you who are on Zoom, there's a participant box in the very lower bottom part of the screen. And you can edit your name. If you don't have a full name like Darlene, I see, I don't know what your last name is. It would be very helpful if you would go edit your name, click on rename, and put in your full first and last name. That's the only way I'm able to get you added to the roster. For those of you who happen to be on Facebook, if you'll just enter your name into the comment field, I will make sure we get your name added to the roster. For those on Zoom, as you have questions throughout the day, just put your questions in the chat box. And for those on Facebook, just please enter your questions in the comment field. I am monitoring that comment field. For those on Zoom, if you're there's a couple different ways to view everything. Hopefully you're using the speaker view by where that yellow arrow is. You can click on speaker view, and that'll look like what's in the lower left-hand corner. That way you'll be able to see the speaker and see her comments and see her presentation. And where that red arrow is, right there in between the two, you can drag that back and forth and make the speaker bigger or smaller depending on the amount of information that's on the PowerPoint slide that's being shown. Please note this event is currently being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career FW Facebook page and on the Career USA YouTube channels for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, and if you post a comment in the chat box or have your microphone or camera on, you give consent for your comments, name, and pictures to appear. Well, my name is Jeff Morris. I have been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Career Focus Group for those who I haven't met since 2007. In 2008, I created Career DFW to help people in the DFW area find everything they need to know about their job search in one place. In 2012, I started CareerUSA.org to help people outside the DFW area. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team conducting interviews. Well, we'd like to start the meeting off with good news. Do we have anybody who has landed? If anybody's landed, just unmute your mic and tell us your story. Going once, going twice. Okay, I guess no landings this time. All right, I'm getting hungry for some donuts here. All right, so what we want to do now is I'm moving this up from the end of the meeting to the beginning of the meeting. If in the chat box, if you'll open up the chat box and put in, I want to get your information to put in for like your 30-second details. So put in your name, comma, phone, comma, email address, comma, the position you're looking for, comma, and 2 or 3 target companies, and then hit the return key. And what I'll do is I'll make sure all this information gets put out to everybody this afternoon when I send out all the details of the meeting along with the roster. And so I'll give everybody a couple minutes to go through and do that. Name, phone, email address, position you're looking for, 2 or 3 target companies, and then hit the return key. I guess I need the Jeopardy 30-second da 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 da. Maybe I'll get that for next week. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Ann. Here we go. Now they're really starting to pop in there. Okay. So you can continue to do that as we continue to keep on going. I just want to, instead of waiting to the end of the meeting, I know a lot of people start putting it in towards the beginning. I'm going to move that to the beginning from now on. For those on chat, for those on Facebook, if you enter into the comment field, put your name, phone number, email address, whatever, if you feel comfortable doing that. And if you don't, please, you can email me, and I'll give you my email address later in this meeting. You can directly email me that information, and I'll get it added to the roster. Okay, so Eldon, job fairs, career announcements, other things popping up. Good morning, Eldon.
I'm here, Jeff. I just am not too fast on the draw today with my computer. Good morning, everybody. The information that I'm about to present to you comes from the calendar tab on the website careerdfw.org. If you're not familiar with the calendar, I urge you to go to that tab and see what's there. Everything in the DFW area is aggregated onto the calendar, or 90% of what you're going to need, or almost 100%. I focus on career and job fairs and special workshops or events. I go through the material fairly quickly. If there's something that catches your ear, again, I urge you to go to the calendar tab, because you will find, or will normally find, a link that will give you more information or allow you to register. Okay, this week's career and job fairs. The Dallas Virtual Career Fair by National Career Fairs will be held Wednesday, July 29th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And there is a link in the calendar to go find out more about that event. This week's special workshops or events, online only at this time. The Who You Know workshop will be held Monday, July 27th from 1 to 3 p.m. There's a Zoom link online to get to that one. Online, Mastering Video Technology, Monday, July 27th from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. This event is put on by the Senior Source, and you can RSVP to that to Kim Marchman, and there's a phone number in the calendar for you to do that. Online again, LinkedIn Tuesdays at 1 p.m., July 28th from 1 to 2:30 p.m. This is a rotating seminar hosted by Loch, Alderson, Terry Sullivan, or Ruth Lipsky. There's a Zoom link to join that. Online interviewing Wednesdays at 1 p.m. This is a careerdfw.org interviewing sessions Wednesday. It's the guest speaker is Mark Mcdonald, and the topic is how to be a confident candidate. Lessons from the pit crew. So I think that would probably be pretty interesting to participate in. Again, that's Wednesday, July 29th from 1 to 2. Another online meeting, Resumes Thursdays online session. This is hosted by Carol Brickell, who's a certified professional career coach. This is Thursday, July 23rd from 1 to 2 p.m. And there's a Zoom link on the calendar that you can go to access that one. Also online, Headhunters Speak, hosted by Pam Holman in the St. Andrews Career Care. This will be Thursday, July 30th from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. There's a Zoom link for that one. And finally, the Work From Home Job Tips webinar will be held Thursday, July 30th from 2 to 4 p.m. And there's a link in the calendar to register for that. And that's it for this week.
Eldon, thank you very, very much. Let's see here. I got to get right back to the right screen here. All right. So my question, if everybody open up their participant box, and for those of you on Facebook, you can just enter the information in the comment box. Do you know somebody who lives outside the DFW area who is unemployed? So if you would just go through and check yes or no, that would be really great. We have one of two surveys we're going to do today. So this is survey number 1. So wow, it's almost 50%. So thank everybody for putting their details in there. The reason I asked that question is because have you told them about the free services that Career DFW is offering? You know, we've got, now that everybody is going online and doing stuff on Zoom, we have got so many things in the DFW area that we can show. On the Career DFW website, if you're trying to find a group, you can check out the calendar, the webinar, teleseminar, radio, TV shows that are happening. And here are all the different events that are happening every week in the DFW area. And you can click on any one of those events and you can find out what's going on, get links to their Zoom account. So, you know, please pass this on. I know we've got more and more people that are checking in with us. And you know, I've seen we've had a couple people from Houston occasionally. from Phoenix. So if you know somebody outside the DFW area, please let them know about all these free services that we're providing. If you know somebody who just lost their job, I know another 1.4 million people filed for unemployment last week. Please let them know about this link here. It's on the Career USA website and the Career.W calendar, where they can click here. I just lost my job. What do I do now? And it's a great one article with a lot of little handouts and things that people can prepare, including, a checklist of what you need to do to get yourself going in your job search. So hopefully you've checked those things out. So let's hear about the practice interview team. Mark, good morning.
Oh, good morning, Jeff. And good morning to everyone. I see quite a few new names. And so I'm Mark Mcdonald. I lead the practice interview team, and I encourage you to link in with me. And you do that by searching for Mark, initial A, McDonald. And I have now over 2,000 connections, mostly in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So once you're linked with me, you get access to a lot of second-degree connections, which can help you in your job search. So just make that request and I'll accept. And good luck using my network to help find connections inside your target companies. So the pit crew has been very busy since the beginning of July. We did 3 this week, 4 last week, 5 the week before. I'm looking to fill out the calendar for next week. And so if you want to get involved, if you're ready to practice, and the pit crew is all about building your confidence that you can do well in an interview situation. So what does being confident mean? It means that you have an answer for any question. You anticipate the situations that are going to come up in the interview. You're pursuing jobs that are a good match to your skills. So we talk about all those topics, and on Wednesday next week, I'll be speaking on, so on Wednesday, we normally have a 13 cycle or 13 session module that we go through for everything with interviewing. I'm going to be covering 8 of them, 8 of those sessions in 1 hour, I hope, but 1 hour plus a little bit, maybe, depends on how much I get wound up. But yeah, come and listen to that. You'll get a compressed version of what we teach every Wednesday in our 13 sessions. So when you're ready to practice, here's how you get lined up for it. So we do practice it. We do the interviews on video. There's 3 panelists who interview you. Those panelists have all been hiring managers. So they have hired people as part of their professional responsibility. They'll be asking you the questions and giving you the feedback after the interview is over. And to make that all work, I need a resume and a job description from you. So we take that job description, we study in advance, we give you a very personalized and customized interview experience. We give you a chance to answer some of the hard questions, like what are your salary requirements? Why'd you leave your last job? Tell me about a time you failed. So those kinds of questions will come up, including questions specific to the job description and the knowledge required to be effective in that job. And it takes about 45 minutes, and then there'll be 10 or 15 minutes of discussion afterwards where we give you feedback on ways you might be more effective and ways that you were very effective in the interview. So it's both the positive things and the areas for improvement, and it's a great experience. It can be a little stressful for you, but interviews are stressful, and so we do make a small amount of effort to give you a realistic interview situations. That's why we do panel interviews. And final thing is it takes a couple of days to set these up. Okay, so we do them any day of the week. So as soon as I get your information, I'll go to work setting up a panel, and that takes usually a couple of days. So if you were to submit your information today, I'd be working on a Tuesday practice interview with a Wednesday as a backup day, so we can be sure we can get a full panel. And so that's the way it works. So include, when you provide your resume and job description, include your availability, time of day for +2 days and +3 days from the day you submit your information. And that's all I got to say. Thanks, Jeff.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Walt, Interview Success Workshop.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Friday. It's great to see everyone joining in, and I love seeing everyone that has put in their target companies. So I'm going to do a little hidden agenda item here, Jeff, before I get into the workshop. And that is, when you put the name of the company, for people to consider. Look that name up on LinkedIn and make sure that the company name you put in finds the company that you want us to find, so we can find those people, we can have connections. I sometimes get a name of a company and I look it up and there's several options and I don't know which one's the right one. So just double check that. Little tip for you to make it easier for people to help you. So let me talk about the workshop, the interview success workshop. So you know, you're going to panel interview possibilities with pit crew, and that's a great thing to do. I wholeheartedly support that. But I wonder, when I talk to people, I say, are you prepared for your interview? And they say, well, no, and I'm not ready, and I don't know what to do. I really don't. I said, well, would you like to know what you need to do to prepare? So I put together this interview success workshop, a very informal workshop, very small group, 2 to 3 people max at a time. Everybody that is a participant will get an interview, we'll get a video for their interview, but we'll talk about the 3 major things you need to do in an interview to differentiate yourself from those other candidates. So that's the I am, I do, I help. It's not just what you do. All the candidates do it, but they want to sell who we are, our personality, our characteristics, does that fit the culture, and how we can help. Every job has a purpose. What is it that that job does? Here are the results that I can provide for you. You need to find out what those things are early on in the interview and then address those and give them good descriptions of how we can help them in the role that they're seeking us to fill. So you have to be registered to attend. So I'm going to put something in the chat box here so that I'm going to put mine in last in just a second. To contact me in a Yahoo email address to register. So you send me the request, I'll send you availability dates, then you can choose what you like and we'll sign you up. So it's learning without squirming. No need to have to be sitting on a hot seat here because we're just learning. I'd like you to come 3 times. The first time, let's find out what it is. Second time, let's practice those fundamentals. And the third time is more like, now let's kind of really get into the real type of interview. But this is a building block and a stage process to give you that confidence for those successful interviews. Well, today is the day of the week to help you get the job you seek. Practice interviewing shows skills you can tweak and get that job that can't be beat.
Great, Walt. Thank you very, very much. You may have something wrong with the audio something's wrong with your audio because we could barely hear you. So.
Oh, you want me to repeat everything?
No, but we need to work on that. Maybe after the meeting, we'll need to set up something and work on that and see if we can figure out what's going on.
I probably just need to cut down the other devices to increase my bandwidth.
Okay. All right, it's time for the career tip of the week. Sue Ellen, good morning. I see you've let Bobby on the island also, finally.
Yes.
So here we go.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Today, we're going to read about how to get ready when you're faced with an unplanned career change. This was written by Andrew Fennell, who is the founder of a CV writing advice website called Standout CV. The coronavirus pandemic has caused an unprecedented upheaval to the economy and job market, leaving many of us facing uncertain futures. With thousands of businesses shutting down across the globe and entire industries grinding to a halt overnight, it's likely to be one of the most challenging periods that job seekers have seen in their lifetime. So if you've been affected by the economic fallout of COVID-19, here are some tips to help you navigate the new version of a quote-unquote normal job market. Optimize your resume accordingly and land the job you need right now. First, don't panic. Although we are living in worrying times, it's worth remembering that events like these have happened in the past and are likely to happen again, and they do eventually pass. Rest assured, things will return to a somewhat similar version of normal soon. The Great Depression of the 1930s was a tragedy which saw millions of Americans lose their jobs. But after recovering, the U.S. went on to boast the strongest economy in the world for many years. So it's worth reminding yourself that although things look bleak now, if you're able to ride out the storm, you will be all right. You may have to put off the pursuit of your dream job for a year, or you may have to take a temporary reduction in income. But if you do as much as possible to reduce the impact of COVID-19 on you right now, you'll be in much greater position, much stronger position to get back on track when things return to normal. So first you want to pinpoint where the opportunities are. As the old saying goes, when one door closes, another opens. This adage is particularly true when looking at the job market. Although we are seeing industries such as hospitality, leisure, and aviation closing their doors during the pandemic, there are other industries seeing huge spikes in activity. Food retailers and fitness equipment suppliers are seeing massive surges in demand, and many companies with services in areas such as video conferencing and contact tracing are growing their businesses to meet the new challenges being brought to our society by social distancing measures. Pay attention to current business news and do some online research to discover which industries are taking off and likely to be hiring new staff. Don't be afraid to think outside the box and consider companies and roles that you wouldn't have under normal circumstances. Remember, this is only going to be a temporary move. Next, identify your transferable skills. Once you have started to build a list of companies, industries, and potential jobs, it's time to figure out what you have to offer them. Making a career move can be daunting, especially if it's one you didn't want to make, but you'll probably find that you already have a number of skills that are in demand across many industries. You just need to identify the ones which are most relevant to the job and companies you will be applying for, so that you can make them prominent in your resume. Scan through company websites, career pages, and job adverts, taking note of the most sought after skills and knowledge that match your own. Once you identify these attributes, you'll be in a much stronger position to create an attractive resume. If you're making a career move, it's likely that you'll be missing a few of the candidate requirements from your new target jobs, but don't let that stop you. If you need to learn how to use a new software tool or even the fundamentals of a whole new profession, it's highly likely that you will be able to find an online course on the topic. The internet is packed full of learning resources on every subject, and often you will be able to find them for very cheap or even free on sites such as Udemy, that's U-D-E-M-Y. You don't have to get a master's degree in your new chosen field, but if you can take a few short courses and put them in the top of your resume, it shows that you're dedicated and you at least have some basic knowledge in the new field. Then you can rewrite your resume from scratch. Your current resume was written for the employers you were targeting before the coronavirus, so it's not likely to appeal to new employers. And it may be that the old resume you had from 10 years ago just doesn't cut it anymore. Therefore, aim to turn a new leaf and completely rewrite your resume, tailoring it directly to the new employers you will be targeting. Ensure that you highlight all of the transferable skills you identified and make prominent any courses you have recently taken. In particular, you'll want to rebrand yourself with a new profile at the top of your resume, which provides an elevator pitch style introduction and explains why you're the perfect fit for the roles you are targeting. Avoid the temptation to focus on your past roles too much, and instead focus on explaining how your skills could benefit employers and help them achieve their goals. Now turn to your network. In addition to approaching plenty of recruiters and hiring managers with tailored applications, don't forget to tap into your existing network. Change your LinkedIn profile to show people that you are looking for a new position and actively reach out to ex-college colleagues and managers. You don't always need to directly ask them for work, but you can just drop them a quick friendly message or comment on a post and strike up a conversation, just so they are aware that you are looking should anything come up. Job hunting in the current climate may be tough, but with a reinvented approach and persistent work, you can secure one of today's new opportunities. So good luck.
Sue Ellen, thank you very, very much. So I have a question for everybody. As I've been trying to book speakers and stuff, you know, I sort of have a one-year plan on speakers, and I find that this year we have accelerated our speakers. So what I guess I need you to do in the mute box, there's a couple topics that we're not covering anymore in the Friday meeting because these topics are being covered on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So my question to you all is, do you want me to have on a Friday morning a LinkedIn presentation, an interviewing presentation, a resume presentation, or the fact that, so if you want those on a Friday, click yes. If you are okay with not doing them because you can tune in on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday at 1 o'clock, click the no button. So, you know, I'm trying to, I don't want us to, you know, overload ourselves on Friday because we've got so many great topics on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays that are being covered. So I'm just sort of looking for everybody's opinion.
Where do you find the yes and no?
In the participant box. If you click on participant, at the bottom there, you can do a couple things. All right, for the most part, well, all right, there's a few yeses, but mostly no's though. Well, I guess I would encourage those people who, you know, I think the no's have it here. So I think I'll sort of go that if you want to see a LinkedIn presentation, join us Tuesdays at 1. If you want to see an interviewing presentation, join us Wednesdays at 1 o'clock. If you want to see a resume presentation, please join us Thursdays at 1 o'clock. The stuff is there. All the prior sessions have been recorded. They're all on the YouTube channel, on Career USA YouTube channel. And I'll tell you how to get to that at the end of the meeting. I just was trying to, as I'm trying to plan out for August, September, and October, as I'm looking ahead here, what I'm trying to do. So I'm going to bring in some different speakers that we've never had before. So we'll continue to have some really great information here on Fridays like we will today. Okay, so it's time for our video clip of the week. For those of you who were with us last week, you got to see this lady explaining the pandemic to her past self. Well, this time, this is 2 months in the future. So the first time was January through like March or April. So now we're going, this is the person who was telling the person what it was like in March or April. Now she's finding out from somebody what it was like in June. So I hope you will enjoy.
Oh, hey, who are you?
I'm Julie from June.
Oh, crazy. I just got finished explaining how nuts everything is going to be to the Julie in January.
That's nice.
So crazy for her, eh? Gosh, that was fun. The look on her face. Wasn't that so fun when I went back in time? Oh, she's headed for a wild ride. Why does your face look like that? Why do you look like that?
So do you want the good news or the bad news?
No. What? Come on. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I'm just trying to think of where you're at. April. You're quarantined.
Yeah. I'm in isolation, which hasn't been that bad.
Have you hit the bread making phase?
Yeah, I'd say so. I have my own sourdough starter.
Ugh, you and everyone else.
Okay. It's pretty crazy about the whole coronavirus, eh?
It's what?
The pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
Is that not top of mind?
Have you hit the murder hornets yet?
Huh. Murder hornets? That's not a real thing. Murder hornets? Murder hornets! Wow, really? Oh, okay.
Sit down.
Wow, we're fucking doing murder hornets. Nope, not me.
Sit down. Are people injecting Lysol?
Look, let's just do some good news. You know, I could really use some good news. Oh, she wants good news. Okay, yeah, sure. We'll do the good news here. Verdict's in on the masks. Turns out, wear them. Well, that's great because, you know, there's been some mixed messaging. 2 astronauts went to the space station. That's exciting. Yeah, lucky fucks. Okay. Oh, Betty Way was trending. No. Turns out she's perfectly fine.
Oh, thank God.
Oh, that's it.
That's it? What? But people must be coming together and staying united?
People have been protesting the quarantine with assault rifles.
What? Yeah, I think it's this like 5G thing. I really don't understand that.
That's ridiculous. Shouldn't the police be involved with that? You know, don't they have a responsibility to protect and serve the health and well-being of every single citizen? Why are you doing that with your hand?
Oh, I wouldn't.
How bad does it get?
Shit hits the fan. But if I'm being honest, it's always been bad. It just hits a boiling point.
You can't tell me what happens?
No.
But a lot happens.
A lot.
So what do I do?
Well, it gets pretty grim and infuriating and feels overwhelming. If I'm here to give you advice, it would be to say we, us, are a person of privilege, and it's part of our job to use our voice. That's a responsibility we have. You don't have to wait for a crisis to step up. We can't change the past, but we can certainly help make the future better.
Okay. Oh, it's just a Twitter headline. Monkey steals COVID blood samples in a Planet of the Apes style heist and cannibal rats in New York. Oh, nothing surprises me anymore. What the f-
All right, so I hope you enjoyed that. So just in a couple minutes here, we'll hear from our speaker. Today we're talking, Minna Brown is with us to talk about the one-page bio. Next Friday, John Jacobs, who's the head of the Richardson Economic Development Board, will be with us to talk about businesses in Richardson. So if you've got any question about businesses in Richardson, it'll be a great opportunity to find out what's going on in Richardson. He knows all. If something's happening in Richardson, he knows about it. On August 8th, the first Friday of the month, as we always do, we're going to have open forum. And on Friday, 8/14, we will have Kingdomality, and I'll be putting out a message next week so that people can go online and take the online test to take it, because we need to find out what group you're in so we know how you interact with the rest of the kingdom. So it's always a fun event. We'll be doing that on the 14th. Just a reminder, Career DFW, for those of you who are watching on the Facebook page, and the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group are 2 different organizations. The only common thread is that I happen to lead both. You're welcome to overthrow me here at any time and take over the North Dallas group and put together these PowerPoints and book the speakers and all that kind of stuff and take care of the roster. But you're not going to get Career DFW out of my hands. I just sort of wanted to point those couple things out. Just as a reminder, if you have questions during our presentation, we ask that you please open the chat box and type the message in there. Make sure the message is going to everybody so we can all see it. And then as Minna stops during the presentation to check on questions, we will do that. For those of you who are on Facebook, please just enter your questions in the comment box. And like I said, I will forward those, or we'll ask those questions during the presentation. So our main event, Minna Brown. Minna's been with us many times over the last, I was trying to look back 10, 11, 12 years. She's talked at the beginning when she first came, she and her partner, Paul Asanoff, came and talked about, tell me about yourself. and how to do a great introduction. And then recently, I've been really, the last several times she's been with us, I've had her come talk about the one-page bio. For those of you who've been to my presentations, you see me talk about three things. There's three books that I recommend everybody buy. Here's the first book, which is her book, their book about, being sharp. The second book that I always recommend is Strength Finders. I always think it's a great book. And then the third book, because it's my presentation, is to talk about my book. So those are the three books. Every time I do a presentation, I think Ms. Brown, her book is great. So a few professional coaches have the depth of executive leadership experience, masterful coaching reputation, and all-around credentials and positive impact that Minna does. She's been an executive coach and career consultant for 22 years and counting, in addition to providing executive coaching and leadership development programs to companies and individuals. She also teaches her own coach training school in Dallas. Before discovering her mission to coach, she was an aerospace executive and a CFO in a large publicly traded company. Minna has co-authored 5 different books about career and coaching, and she's got an MBA from Vanderbilt and is a master's certified coach. So Minna, thank you very much for being with us, and take it away.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, first of all, let me say that clip was hilarious. I mean, I was muted, but I was just laughing and laughing. It was just so funny. I don't know where you found it, but that was hilarious. And thank you, Jeff. Thank you again for inviting me to share and for inviting me to participate with your group. You always have a fabulous group. And so let me ask you a couple of administrative things as we get started. It is a big group. And when we're in person, we will be eventually one of these days, but when we're in person, I really like it to be interactive. I really like to get your input and your thoughts. So, Jeff, I think we've got a couple of options. Does everybody know how to raise their hand? Sometimes that's a little obscure.
Yeah, so on the participant box, if you have that open, for those of you who are on Zoom, you should have a yes, no. Oh yeah, I see some people raising their hand right now. So you all see
wonderful.
hands.
Try that out, and then I'll be able to see some raised hands. And then the other thing is, everybody knows how to do the chat box. And so Jeff, if you wouldn't mind being my co-host, and I'm going to ask people to put a word or two into the chat box. And you don't have to read all of them, but just maybe if you wouldn't mind just reading through some of the samples of things that they offer up. So how will that work?
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. So let me, and you've made me a co-host, right?
I have.
So I can show my screen and we can get going. Can everybody see the screen? Nod your head. Oh, some people are not. Yeah, okay, great. Yes. Oh, I love it. Okay, great. I listened from the last 20, 30 minutes. What a good set of recommendations. You mentioned the interviewing practice. I cannot tell you enough how important it is to practice. That interview practice will be 80–90% of your success in an interview. So take that opportunity to do that. It'll be worth it. And so today I want to talk about the bio. Now, some of you may have already created your bio, so this may be just a review and maybe just to double check a few things that you've put into your bio. But I'd like to just give you a little bit of a structure. And then once you kind of know the bones of it, then you can make it your own. You can make it engaging in ways that represent your personality and your unique attributes. So today is just like, here are the bones of it. Here's how we think a bio should be developed. And I'm going to start first by talking about, why do you even need a bio? What's the point? I have a good resume, et cetera, et cetera. And I believe that the key difference between a resume and a bio and any other document is how you tell your story and how you make sure your story is understood. And particularly in these very weird days of job search in the world of COVID and isolation, and we're all Zoom fatigued out of our brains. And so just being able to kind of have a step back and look at how you can just a little notch even improve your marketing presence in your job search. Okay, so why do you need a bio? Now, I want you to put in the chat box, when somebody hands you a resume, let's say you're meeting somebody. Now, I know we're not doing it virtual, we're not doing it in person anymore, but maybe you get an email from somebody and, you know, send me your resume. When they get your resume, what do they immediately know is happening? What does it signal to them? Just put a word or two in the chat box.
Job searching, looking.
Looking.
Job searching.
Job search. A resume screams job search. Now, that's not a bad thing, but when you're networking with somebody you don't know, or you're just getting an introduction into a company that you're interested in, you give them a resume, the first document you give them. How are they then positioned to have a conversation with you? They know you're looking for a job. Now, we're not trying to be manipulative or inform people incorrectly, etc. But the thing is, networking doesn't, and this is my view, and I know, Jeff, you guys have a lot of wonderful presentations on networking and how to do it, and etc. But a lot of networking, and I'd say really, honestly, all of networking is about relationship building. It's about connections. And if you start out your networking with I need a job, what does that do if you're on the receiving end of that? I mean, the I need a job message is a little off-putting, and it's also puts a bit of the burden. You've taken your burden of finding a job and kind of handed a piece of it over to the person you're talking to, the person that you're networking with. And that message, imagine the difference between meeting someone, even virtually, a cup of coffee, a virtual cup of coffee, and the first thing they see about you is a resume. What does it communicate to them? I need a job. So I think, and this is true for the rest of your careers, trust me, having a really good bio is a communication tool about you that tells your story, that you control the narrative. And everybody at almost any level in companies anymore, certainly at a senior professional level and manager and anything at those levels, they should have bios, and you will use it for the rest of your career. You might use it on an internal intranet. You might use it in other ways, but the bio tells your story the way you want to tell it. And how many people will read a resume? Put a percentage in the chat box. How many people will read, people you give it to, recruiters, managers, other friends, how many people will read a resume all the way through, word for word? What do we think?
2%, 5%, 0, 2, 10%, 5%, 2%, 1%, 0. Not many. They skim it.
Totally. Everybody exactly right. It's certainly not very many. So when you hand somebody a resume, you know what? It's got content, rich, juicy, wonderful accomplishments and percentages and responsibilities and company names and all of that. That's great stuff, right? Nobody reads it word for word. They skim it. And a very small percentage they might read the top little section where you give your highlights. They might read the bullets right under the top section that highlights those key differential attributes. But from there down, nah, they're going to skim it. And then they might glance at what your education is or what technical skills you have. But boy, they are not going to read it. On the other hand, a bio, they're more likely going to read. First of all, it's laid out with more air, more white space around it. Secondly, it has more information that is a narrative. Wouldn't you rather read a few paragraphs about somebody that's written in a nice flowing narrative, and it gives you it's like it gives you the executive summary of this person? That's easy to read. I mean, if you get a research paper, you might read the executive summary and decide, I want to read the rest, or I don't want to read any more. That's what the bio does for you. So when I on this slide, I'm saying that the bio is a personal marketing tool, and it's not just for job search, but it's a beautiful tool to use in job search. It is something you can use in your career when you have a managerial job and you've been invited to speak at an association meeting, or you're meeting somebody new in the company that gives them some background on you. So it's a prose, it's a narrative that you get to tell your story in a way that's short, engaging, easy to read, and it gets somebody's attention. We're going to talk about the 2 or 3 paragraphs or the 4 paragraphs in a bio. You want to get their attention in the first paragraph, and then you want to give them the really good hard stuff right in the bottom paragraph. So it entices them, hopefully. We're going to talk a lot about what it is, but it does have a picture in it. Now, I pretty strongly don't believe a picture belongs on a resume. There are other opinions, but I don't believe it should. You'll get your picture on the LinkedIn. You'll get your picture in other documents. The picture goes on the bio, but I don't think, unless it's a very unusual environment, that you would put your picture on your resume. And I see Jeff's shaking his head too. I think yeah. And so it serves a purpose to tell about who you are. And so when you're writing anything, and this would be true if you're writing an email, if you're writing a short report for your manager, if you're writing anything, the question I would always ask, no matter what you're writing, is what do I want this message to convey, and what do I want the reader of this message to hear or understand? So everything you write, and I would say that even if you sit in a meeting and you're talking to somebody, and this is part of my coaching background too, I'll admit, because what we do in coaching is the first thing we ask a new client: what do you want to accomplish? What is the purpose? What is your outcome that you want from this? And so always ask yourself that in your bio: what do you want the reader to know about you in this narrative? And you get to decide what things go in and what kind of weird, goofy, maybe not so useful information just stays out. And that's one of the reasons the bio is so useful. I believe in networking that when you network with somebody that's new, I believe the document to use is your bio. If they ask for your resume because somebody said, oh, I want you to meet Minna. She's interested in your accounting manager job. That's great. They've asked for your resume, but guess what? Send your bio too. Send both. Because again, they're not going to read your resume word for word, but they will read your bio in a much higher likelihood, much higher probability. Okay, so when you use a bio versus a resume, so when you are in a job, now this is down the road, you guys are all going to get something sorted out. We're going to get through this hot mess and come back to some sort of normalcy one of these days. But when you are in a job, and you are maybe deciding I need to look outside the company, or maybe even looking for you're kind of being discreet about looking for something inside the company, bio is the perfect tool to use in an unannounced job search, where you don't really want to announce to your boss and the whole world that you're looking for a job. But so many people, and my personal view is everybody should have a bio. The bio doesn't scream, I'm looking for a job. So it's like, let me tell you a little bit about myself. Number two, when you want to help somebody, let's say your resume has some weird spotty things in it. Let's say you were in one industry and then you jumped over to a different industry, and then there was a period of time where you didn't have a job. Maybe you did some contract work, or maybe you were a stay-at-home caretaker. I mean, there's all sorts of weird stuff that just kind of have to be in a resume. But when you write a bio, you can connect the dots for the person reading it in the way you want them to put the dots together. So you can kind of give a narrative about your career and about who you are and what you bring to the table. And then the bio too, because it's condensed. It's one page. It's not crammed up, single spaced, shoved into the tiniest margins you can fit it in. It's open. It communicates your story in a more open way where you can emphasize just the right things. So let's look at the difference between the two, the resume versus the bio. And these things are all in the book too. So I know on a slide grading scale, this would get a D-. It's too much stuff on a slide. So I'm just going to highlight a couple of things. The resume, as we talked, announces you're in a job. The bio, you can use it on anything you're doing, but include it with your resume, because then the bio gives your resume, it's like the executive summary, which is what you want. The resume is full of the details. And you guys have had, I'm sure, speakers and workshops on how to build a good resume. You want to put in, what did you accomplish? What did you hit the ball out of the park on? But on the bio, you can use that with the right spin. The resume is obviously really compressed and got a lot of data. And I think 2 pages is great. These days, 3 pages, yeah, all right. 1 page, only if you have a really tight focus. And let's say you're an expert attorney in intellectual property in the state of Texas, and that's what you've done for your entire career. Well, that might fit on 1 page. You don't need to put a whole lot more, but most careers are a little more diverse and have more variety. So you would probably need maybe 2 pages. And these days, since it's all electronic, it's not out of the question to do a little more than 2 pages. Just be careful you don't get long-winded and put a bunch of repetitive stuff in there. I'm a big fan of 2 pages. And I feel like if you can't get it on 2 pages, then you're putting stuff in there you probably don't need to do. But on the bio, it's 1 page, it's narrative, it's full sentences, it's easy to read. The job search tool we talked about, the bio multi-purpose, everybody has a resume pretty much. I mean, I have had some clients recently that are in their 50s and they've told me I've never had a resume because they were in mostly the same company or they got recruited and blah, blah, blah. But I would say 90% of the people out there have a resume. But usually people that have bios in the past have been just senior executives or personalities of sort. These days, it should be just about everybody. And then we talked about the last part. Let's go to an example. This is just like a little graphic design. So the resume over there, you have your headline, you've got your positioning paragraph. We'll talk a little bit more about that. You've got your most recent job, and then your education credentials. And then under that, you might have community activities, other leadership things, maybe some technical skills, but it's laid out like that. On the right-hand side here, your bio, and that lovely picture is my beautiful son. So I told him I'm going to put my sweet son into my presentation. He goes, "Oh, Mom," and it's like, you don't get control over it. So I put so you have a picture, you have your name and some keywords in your headline lined up, and it's graphically more interesting. It has a more interesting look to it. You have 4 paragraphs, and we're going to walk through all 4 of those paragraphs, and that's it. I've seen some bios that run on and on and on and go into 2 pages, and they're it's like trying to read Moby Dick. And it's like, no, keep this short and sweet. Make this an executive summary, 4 paragraphs. And then I recommend putting your contact information. Don't forget about it. Put your contact information right at the bottom. If you're using Word or something like that, pop it into the footer. But definitely you want the top of it to really be your banner, your name, your keywords, etc. So that's kind of what it looks like in a graphic way. So let's talk about how bios can be bad. You know, it's like, I don't like to start with bad news, but let's move on. Let's make sure we don't cross any of these hazards. Some bios just have data. It's just not really written in an engaging way. And by the way, if you've written it, get some other people to read it for you and collaborate on making it interesting and how you can sexy it up a little bit and how you can add some flavor of your personality. So a bio that's just dry data, here's this, I had this, I did that, that's not engaging. That's one of those bios that may not be read. And then again, I said there's some bios that just go on and on and on and on and on. Too long, too detailed. That defeats the purpose of the bio. You might as well just give them your resume. Some are just like a paragraph or two. Well, that's not quite enough. You really want to weave your story into this document and really make it sing a song. You know, you're composing your song here. And it's really important. And I probably will say this too often. You must have a clear objective. You need to know what you want, what you're aiming for. When I work with clients in career coaching, the mistake too many people make is not having a concrete focus and an objective for their search. And this is a little bit of a sidebar, but we often get lured into a misunderstanding or a misperception that if I keep a really broad net and I put a big broad net out there that I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, I've got so many great skills, I can be in sales, I can be in operations, I can do all this stuff. The broader the net, the more you are not qualified for any of those jobs. Remember, you're the supplier of talent, the purchaser of talent, the employer, the hiring manager is looking for somebody that meets a spec, a specific thing that they need to hire for. And if you're if you're all of that and this and this and this and this, you're not even going to be a candidate for the job that you might want. So I really encourage everybody as you're looking for your job search. And even if you're changing, let's say you were in food service or something else, you know, there are some markets. I loved hearing this earlier in the day. There are some markets, there are some companies that are hiring, that are expanding. I read yesterday that one of the pharmaceutical companies got a $1 billion contract this week for a vaccine by the end of the year. Now, how are they going to spend $1 billion? They're going to pay for stuff and they're going to hire people. And so some of these industries are expanding and hiring and building up some capabilities, particularly if you have a skill that you can work remotely or that you can cultivate a way to work remotely. You're going to be in demand. So those jobs are out there, although it's all topsy-turvy. Make sure you have an objective, that you know what I call it your bullseye. Make sure you know what your bullseye is, and don't develop a resume or a job search strategy that's too big. Like I call it boil the ocean. If it's all that big, you will get no interest because you don't fit anybody's fit of desire. So make sure it's focused. The basic bio structure, it's 4 paragraphs. It's 1 page. It has good margins. I mean, an inch margin, fine. If you have to squeeze it down a little bit to keep it on 1 page, that's fine, but don't get those little ½ inch margins out to the side, and don't do it single space, cram together. We want to make this engaging and reading. We want people to be able to scan it, but also read it, because you're not going to put a whole bunch of headlines and stuff in that. You're going to put keywords in the header, but you're going to write your narrative in this. It has a heading. It has a title, which is either if you're in a job, it would be the title of the job you're in. And if you're looking for a job, it would be that first line on your resume that says Chief Financial Officer or IT professional in enterprise systems, or you're going to have a headline that speaks to the job you want. Remember, you're going to have a focus, and then you're going to have some really important keywords right underneath that title or that headline. You'll have a professional headshot, And by the way, don't put some awful headshot on it. I mean, I've seen some stuff on LinkedIn that I just want to go, are you kidding me? Really? You didn't. And don't put one of those pictures where you were in a family picture in your tux or in your evening gown and you're in a line of people and you chop out everybody on the two sides. Don't do that. Don't do that. Get a good, clean, professional headshot. And honestly, if you have a nice, simple background, phones have great cameras these days. Holy smokes. Do plenty of them until you get one that you feel is professional, and go look at some examples. That needs to be on your LinkedIn profile, and it pops right up there on your bio, like my beautiful son. You want 4 paragraphs. And here are the 4 paragraphs, and we're going to walk quickly through each one. Your positioning paragraph. And we have talked in the past, and you guys may or may not have been in some of the other presentations I've done, but it is important to know how to talk about yourself, that you have your, let me tell you about yourself. Or when you go to an interview, the first question they're going to ask is, tell me about yourself. Well, you got to know how to answer that question, for goodness sakes. And it is not your life history. It is not everything you ever did. It is a 3 or 4 sentence statement you can say in 35 seconds. So that positioning paragraph is your first paragraph. We're going to dig deep a little bit on that. The next one is just the most recent job. They care most about what you've done in the last few years, not so much what you did 20 years ago. So the second paragraph is about the last maybe 1 or 2 jobs. I had a client the other day that the last job she had, she didn't love it. It wasn't a great job. It didn't really fit what she wanted to do. So we commented on it, is that most recently she was this, but then we immediately went to the job prior to that and talked about that as if it was the last job. Then you have the rest of your career, everything. Believe it or not, you can do it. The whole career before that last job goes in the 3rd paragraph. And then the last paragraph is your credentials. And we'll talk a little bit about more of what that would be. And then, as I mentioned, the contact information in the footer. Okay, positioning paragraph, your very first paragraph. It's the pros. And we don't have time today to go over a personal introduction. And that's something that, Jeff, have you guys worked with? I know you do a roundtable when we did it in person. And I was so impressed with how well everybody was able to introduce themselves and give their personal introduction. What do you guys do now?
Well, we've gotten away from that because it's really, being on Zoom, you don't really have that. So we just ask people to put their contact information in the chat box, and, we get that out to everybody. I mean, yeah, that's one of the big parts of the meeting I miss.
I know. Yeah. Well, it is something that I think if you have some little subgroups, or if you guys create some buddy systems in your group, or if you have ways in your life, make sure you know how to answer that question. Tell me about yourself. Short, sweet, hit the highlights, and make sure that it is a compelling, interesting way to describe who you are. And I have 3 factors that we put into it: who you are, what you know, and I call that your guru factor. And that one's a little trickier sometimes, because if you're the chief financial officer of a company and you put into your guru factor that you know how to read balance sheets, that's stupid, because every chief financial officer should know how to read a balance sheet. But if you put into your second pair in your guru factor that I am highly experienced in international commodities trading, well, not every CFO has that. So you want to put something in that guru factor that is differentiating, that if you lined up 5 people going for exactly the same job you are, what is that little secret in the sauce that it's about competencies that that not all of the other people would necessarily know. Don't put anything in there that the job by its definition, if you're a technology designer, you don't put in there, I know how to program systems. I mean, that's just silly. So you put things in there about some esoteric or some really cutting edge technology that that's what goes into your guru factor. And then the star factor is what sets you apart. I really like to say, what if you were to ask the boss that you got the highest ratings from, or if you were to ask your employees who just followed you from job to job to job, or if you had an opportunity to ask your customers, why do you do business with me? Then those are the star factor things. They're the reasons that you are the best that somebody's worked for, or the best service provider for your customers. So those are your star factors. And so I'm very organized about this. And if you don't have the bones of it right, you can't make it the best prescription or description. And then once you've got the bones right, you can now add your flavor, but you don't start dressing it up until you've got the fundamentals right. The first sentence is your essence factor, and that is the most important sentence. And this is where that focus comes in. And so I talk about the essence factor, and I gave you an example here on the slide. Andrew is a business savvy human resource manager with extensive background in compensations, benefits, and training. Now, it puts a stake in the ground. And when we talk about introductions, I talk about, what file cabinet do you belong in? What drawer do you pull out that you belong in? And then what folder inside that drawer do you belong in? That's where we're going with the essence factor. And then the balance of that first paragraph just captures the additional flavor. That's where you add some of your personality and some interest. And then I do want to pause here, and Jeff, anybody who has questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat box. We have limited time, and I want to be really respectful of your time. But as we go through, rather than stop and answer those questions, I will try to leave a few minutes at the end, and Jeff can pull out the ones that I think would be most meaningful. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Yeah, good. All right, the second paragraph, and I describe this as your current, if you're in a job, maybe looking for another job, or your most recent job, if you're looking outside, or if you're looking for a job and you're unemployed. And you can write that as currently as the manager of the program management office, the PMO of blah, 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 I do da, da, da. Or if you are not in a job right now, but this is the second paragraph. This is not the first paragraph, because you're not going to talk about your job first. You're going to talk about you first. The job comes second, and that's the second paragraph. So you might say, most recently as the Director of Human Resources for ABC Company, Henry, produced whatever. So, I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but your bio is most likely in third person. So if it were my bio, I would say Minna Brown was or is an executive coach, blah, blah, blah. So it's third person. And that's just, I don't see very many bios really that are written in first person, but then we go to LinkedIn, and that's when you take it to first person. And then you put the nature of the business. So if it's pharmaceutical, if it's manufacturing, if it's distribution, whatever, you want to put something in there about the nature of the business and what your responsibilities are. And then certainly pick out one or two. Usually I'd say keep it to one, because all of this other good stuff is going to be on your resume. You don't need to repeat all of your accomplishment. Pick one that's the home run, something that you are most proud of, that maybe you got a bonus for, you got recognition for, your client called you up and said, holy smokes, thank you so much. Put that in that second paragraph. Just short. We want these readable. The third paragraph then is everything else. And believe it or not, it can be done. So you would just say something like, previously, Ms. Brown did such and such and such. And prior to that job, she worked in aerospace and distribution for, companies on the East Coast and Texas, whatever. But just sum it up. Remember, they're not trying to read all of your background for this bio. You want to weave your story. So what you put in this third paragraph is to cherry pick things in your background that are lined up with that bullseye. Remember, if it's not connected to your bullseye, to your focus, to your objective in your career, don't put it in there. Leave it out. That's, I mean, there's no rules that say you've got to put something in there that's irrelevant. You put something in that really sells you. And then you can show off. Like I started my career many decades ago with Price Waterhouse. Now, it's a well-known organization. It's a very well-respected organization. And so for me, if I were writing a part of my bio, I might say, Minna Brown started her career with Price Waterhouse because it has cachet. It gives me a little positive branding. So anything like that, if you've got a household name, a well-respected company, I don't care when it was, if it's got some glam to it, put it in that third paragraph. And then the last sentence usually can just be just one big lump sum. Early in her career, she was in accounting and finance for 3 different companies. I mean, it doesn't need to be much, just kind of closing it out. And then the last paragraph is your credentials. Now, some people don't have degrees, but you've got credentials. Credentials says I've got some kind of validation of what I do. It could be technical training. If you're in technology, it could be the different programs or the different environments you've worked in. But in most cases, you have some level of educational credential that you want to start with. And what I say is you start with your college degrees and you do it in reverse order of currency. So you want to put your master's degree or your PhD or your bachelor's degree, you start with the one that's the best. Remember, your topic sentence of a paragraph is almost always the first sentence, and it sometimes can be the last sentence, but you don't want to bury it in the middle. So you want to start with your college degrees, and you can use these shorthand designations that are really common. Don't try to spell it all out. It takes up too many digits, and you need to keep some space down. So you can say BS, BA, MBA, whatever. But if there's some more obscure degrees, or if the initials may stand for multiple things, like I've given the example there, then spell it out. If you're not sure that your reader is going to instantaneously know what it is, then go ahead and spell it out so you can be clear. And then, of course, in that credentials area, include any other. Think about credentials as stamps. You get stamps on your cards. Imagine your passport. If you go out, you get a stamp in your passport. These certificates, awards, publications, if you speak multiple languages, man, that goes there. Community activities, that can go after your credentials. And if you're the head of a committee and let's say you're you're a participant on the COVID committee for Dallas County. I don't know if I'd put that in. That might not be good, but no, you'd put anything that is recognizable and impressive. You're trying to impress people. So that's what you put in that last paragraph. Okay. So here, now this would get a F- on slide evaluations, because nobody can read this slide. If you were in the room and this were at the front of the table, you couldn't read it. But here is an example of a bio that we've put in our book. And so we start with John Mendoza is an innovative and strategic financial leader with expertise in strategic investments and operational projects, primarily in the US and Latin American markets. Now, that sentence is his essence factor. Who is he? He is, we find out in one sentence that he's in finance, has experience in strategic investments, he's got operational experience, and he has geographic experience in the US and Latin America. That is his essence factor. So then at the top, you see his headline, his title, and then some keywords. Then your first paragraph is your essence factor plus the rest of your personal introduction. The second paragraph is what you are doing now or what in the most recent job you were doing. And then the third paragraph, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 5.5 lines is all the rest of his career. And then at the bottom, his credentials. He's a CPA, he has a BBA from the University of South Florida, an MS in accounting. Now, I would switch this if I were redoing it. I would put that master's in accounting first and put the bachelor's second, because you really want to make sure they know your highest degree first. But that's what it looks like. That's what I think the bones of a good bio looks like. Now, a couple of cautions. How are we doing on time? We're going to get there.
You're great. No, don't worry about it. We're good till 11:30, so you're
okay.
Plenty of time.
Okay, good. And I do want to have time for questions because, you know, I'm flying through this and we don't get the opportunity to kind of interact like we would in the room. So I would say there's a couple of cautions. First of all, faith-based or political organizations may be appropriate, like either in your credentials or in your community activities or things like that. They may be appropriate if they are aligned with your goal. So for example, if you want to be the manager of technology for a local church, then of course that's relevant. So your activities in your religious world might be relevant. If you want to be, you want to work on an administrative role for some candidate's campaign, well, of course, your political experience and interests might be relevant. But I would generally say 99% of the time, it just doesn't belong there. I would say that for your resume as well. It doesn't belong on your resume and it doesn't belong on your bio. And it is simply a fact that we have in all of our world, and every single one of us have both unconscious biases and conscious biases. And you might hit somebody that just goes, oh man, I so relate to that. But then you might hit a hiring manager or a recruiter that's like, you have got to be kidding me. I don't want anything to do with that person. So you just don't know. You can't predict. You don't know how to gauge that. Leave it off unless it is specifically aimed at your bullseye. Number two, and again, this is a Minna-ism. This is not everybody agrees with me on this. So I will acknowledge that right up front. I do not believe that Minna has 2 kids and 3 dogs and enjoys music and movies. I'm sorry. Why would I hire you because you have kids, a dog, and you like movies? Nobody cares. I mean, it's great to chat about that when you're having a nice introduction or whatever, but it doesn't belong on your bio. And I don't believe it belongs on your resume either. So I think you just have to be discriminating and know who your target audience is and whether or not it's an environment where you want to talk about those things. Another, maybe again, going back to some biases and unconscious as well as inadvertent things, people have judgments. And if they just don't like something that you put into this squishy space, it's just not going to do you any, it's not going to do you any favors. And more importantly, it can do you harm. So I'd just be very, very discriminating about that. It also can tee up some questions that really shouldn't be asked in an interview. You know, are you married? How many kids do you, how old are your kids? I mean, you've almost opened the door for that by putting it there. And it's inappropriate in an interview for any interviewer to dig into that stuff. It's not appropriate. So I would just leave it off. And then finally, any little, and that's the last one, personal little tidbits about family and all that, just take that out of it. This is a business. This is, I need a job. I want a job. I'm going to tell you what's going to make you hire me. And that's all we need to know. You can demonstrate your wonderful personality and your broad interests. And the only exception that Paul and I both agree on is that if your hobby or your interest, let's say you love riding horses. Well, if you were on the equine team for the Olympics, okay, now that's different. That is, wow. That shows commitment, dedication, competence. That shows a lot. So if you were world recognized or even statewide an accomplishment, that's something you might consider including. But other just fluff stuff, leave it out. Just leave it out. And so I would suggest write your bio. And then I like these questions. If you hand your bio to a colleague or you call up Jeff and say, Jeff, would you just see what you think about my bio? And somebody reads it and you say, what do you think? All right, so put in your chat box here. You give somebody your bio and they give you feedback. What are they likely to tell you? Chat?
Good things, looks good.
Looks good.
Hopefully the truth.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
please be honest.
Yes, hopefully give you honest feedback. Hopefully they like it.
They're going to say, you say, here, you know, what do you think? Jeff, what do you think of my bio? And he's going to say, hey, it looks good. Hey, that's great. Oh, I love it. That's wonderful. Is that helpful? Well, it may make me feel good. That make me feel good. I like that. But it doesn't give you actionable feedback. So I would jot these questions down. Is it clear? I mean, if you read it, does it make sense? Is there anything written in there that's like, what do you mean by this? What is that about? And so does it give the picture of who you are? Number two, is it me? You know, if you write something and your good friend reads it and they're going, oh, that's good. Whose bio is this? Not me. So you want to be sure they're going, oh man, that's a good description of you. Number three, is it engaging? Does it really capture your energy? Does it portray who you are with some bells and whistles and gives you the kind of pizzazz that you want? Number four, does it have impact? Does it have some wow factor? Does it showcase who I am? Does it tell my story? Remember, we're wanting to manage the narrative. We're building our story. Does it really have that kind of oomph that you want? And then last, does it flow? Does it capture the essence? Does it flow into the detail? Those are some of the questions that I would say, get your bio written, work on it, get the bones written, add a little flavor here and there. It's like put some spice in it. And then ask a colleague, somebody you're a fan. Don't ask a family member. No. Not unless your family member is the head of HR at a company who can give you that kind of feedback. Don't ask a family member. Go ask a colleague. Hook up with somebody in this group and say, listen, I'm going to write my bio. Would you do yours? And then let's trade and give each other feedback. And boy, be honest with each other, because that's where it really helps. And that was in the comment, you know, please be honest with me, because, you know, just patting me on the head does not make it better. It may make me feel good for about 3 seconds, but that's all. All right. So bios, and we've been talking about today, the foundation bio. And that's what I was saying. This is the bones of a good bio. It's 4 paragraphs. It has this structure. It has a picture. It has some good flavor. It has your title, etc. That's the foundation bio. And it feeds so many other things. So for example, there are documents called an executive profile, which is a little different spin on it. I'm going to show you a picture of mine. Your LinkedIn profile. Let me just say, when this is maybe the most important derivative of having a good bio, is that when you write a good bio, those good solid 4 paragraphs, maybe a few good keywords sprinkled in there, when you go to your LinkedIn profile, and you know, LinkedIn, God love them, they move things around all the time. They expand, and then you have to click down, and then you go up, and it's all over the place. You never know where something's located. But at the top is always your summary. And this bio, you cut and paste right into your summary, with one exception. You convert it to first person. And I'll bet Jeff remembers years and years ago, I said, keep it all in third person. But about 4 or 5 years ago, it's really shifted, because LinkedIn is a little bit more, it's internet, connecting on a networking basis, and you're speaking from you, not about you. You're speaking as you. So I do believe the best way to put your summary on your LinkedIn profile is to play with it a little bit, but convert it to first person. As opposed to saying, Minna is an executive coach, I would say, I am an executive coach, or I have been an executive coach for X number of years or something. So I'd change it to that I language from the third person, she, you know, and et cetera. So that's a critical application for your bio. And then sometimes you have your own website, and more people are doing some personal websites. I frankly think your LinkedIn profile is essentially your personal website, but if you had a separate website, there's a little section on almost every website that says about. So if you have a website and there's a about, then your profile, your bio goes there. If you're doing business proposals, I mean, it just goes on and on. If you're being selected for board bio, a nonprofit, you do PowerPoint presentations, maybe to new companies. If you're a speaker, you'll have a podium introduction. You might have a seminar. You'll have a brochure. It might be, and I could probably add 10 more bullets to this, but you can see how that bones of a bio can be the feeder to all of these different applications. So here's an example. I don't know if I've changed from this slide, but here's an example of my LinkedIn profile. And it basically is the same thing, my header, and then right here on about, my clients are. So it's in first person. And I'm specifically talking about who I am and what I do. And then this document over to the right is what I have taken. I've taken my my bio and my resume from a long time ago, and then what I would call my profile, and I've merged them into the document on the right, so that for me, because I'm self-employed and I'm not looking for a job like that, but I want my potential customers to read the good stuff about me. And so in this document, I can put my really key kind of cool stuff at the top. The right-hand side is almost verbatim my bio. And then the left-hand side in that gray column is client statements, you know, little mini testimonials. And I think something like that is a really fun thing to network with. It really gives you a fulsome story about who you are and how you operate, and that can be a derivative of this foundation bio. Okay, we're doing good. All right, so the two books that Jeff was talking about, that leaves us good time for questions. The one on the left is the one he's mentioned, and thank you so much, Jeff. I just so appreciate it. We did update it to second edition a couple of years ago, and so we updated some examples, we updated some, added some additional chapters about internet applications, etc. So it's just a really fun book that we wrote, and I think it applies. We may do third edition in 2025, but and then the book on the right is a compendium of about 58 or 59 little short essays about career management, visioning, marketing documents, interviewing, networking. And the last section, there's about 4 chapters there, the last section is money, because one of the things that's the hardest thing to talk about sometimes, and not knowing when to talk about it, how to talk about it, what to do about it. So the last several chapters are about how to talk about money, for goodness sakes. Let's see. So, and this is B sharp. That's just the outline of B sharp, which we've already talked about. And that's 54. I got the number wrong, 54 essays. And that's B smart. So, and then if you would like to buy either one, and Jeff and I can work this out, if you want to, we'll figure something out. I'm happy to absorb the shipping cost. And I can take credit cards, or he and I can work this out. But oh, Roxanne has one. Yay, good. And so let's see. So questions. I did pretty good, Jeff. I've been working so hard at my timing, because when we are stuck on these webinars and we're all like zoomed crazy, and I just really want to make sure we keep it moving. And now I can answer any questions that may have come up.
Yeah, this is number 10 for me, and I have one more to go today, and then I'm done for the weekend. So, all right, a couple things. Couple people said in Europe, it's very common on CVs to ask for pictures on your resume, but that's a European thing. So I guess if you're applying to a European company, if you know that a company is based there, if you're sending your resume overseas, you may want to include a picture. But in most cases, I know the federal government does not want your picture, because they don't want to be motivated by what your picture looks like.
Well, and discrimination. If your picture is there and you are a minority, or you're an older woman and they pick a younger man, they don't want any even just sniff of any kind of discrimination. So they do not want a picture. Going back to the CV, it varies. And I do a lot of work with people in Europe and England, and my daughter lived there. My son-in-law lived there for a long time. It's a mixture. I would say there are a lot of companies, particularly larger corporations, they do want a CV, and a CV is not a resume. A CV is longer. It's more, it's just a lot more detailed, although that's shifting. I'm working with some clients right now in Ireland, and their environment are looking for resumes rather than CVs. And a lot of people know that America does resumes and Europe does CVs, but they're beginning to blend. And so some organizations do want a picture, but it's not across the board. So you want to check your industry, your environment, and your the domain that you're operating in.
Okay. Michael on Facebook asked, does it make sense to have more than one objective and therefore more than one bio?
Oh, I love this discussion. I would say most of the time, absolutely not. This is a very transparent world. You're out there, people know people, things go around. But here's the thing. If you have two legitimately different, substantively different objectives you're running in a parallel path, yes, of course. That means you're going to have a different resume as well. So you might have a different bio and a different resume. And it also doesn't mean, just like with your bio and your resume, it's okay to adjust that and tweak it from time to time. The bio is a little easier to tweak because it has more of a narrative, and that's good. The question I would always ask a client, if they're going down this parallel path, or they have two separate kind of diverging objectives, I would really sit down and ask, what do you really want? Who's the best you? What would make you the happiest? What's the best odds? I think if you're doing this parallel, sometimes your focus gets diluted and you are not as effective on either one. And I would probably challenge my client to, let's really vet this and make sure that you need to go two paths, as opposed to, is there any meaningful way you can do it in one? But that's really going to be a judgment call, and it's going to be very much based on what you decide your focus. Remember, the very first thing I would want you to do is have a crystal clear focus. And if that focus, if you have two really hardcore separate bullseyes, then yes, you would need to.
Okay,
What
and
do
I
you think, Jeff?
Tony sort of asked the same question. Do you vary your bio to your target, similar to how you revise a resume? So I think you've advised us not to do that. Jeff Miller, I see your hand up. You want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, thank you for taking my question, and Mina, thank you for your presentation. I don't really know how to ask this without being confrontational, so please don't take this question the wrong way. I've got a 20+ year career in IT. I've done quite a few interviews of peers and positions, just your basic IT positions. I've never seen the bio in this level. Is this just something newer for the non-C-level, non-executive positions, or can you just kind of elaborate a little bit on that?
Would you just ask that question? I didn't quite understand the question. Is the bio, how the bio, who uses the bio?
Yeah, I work in IT, and I have never really, in my years of interviewing people, I've never had anybody present me with a bio. Is this more of something newer for this type of IT thing, or is this something more that's prevalent in the senior level positions?
And that's a good question. So I would say a little bit of both. But first of all, it's not new. I mean, it's been around, as you're mentioning, for senior level people, C-level, senior executives, by and large, and a lot of times they have to have something on their website that is, you know, you look at a website and there's a tab that says leadership, or, you know, it's a subpart of the about thing. But I would say higher level executives have been using bios for decades. So yes, it is definitely more common to use in more higher level leadership. To the point of, is it a little newer, and is it applicable for a technology job, for example? What we do know is that LinkedIn is the go-to source for recruiters. And I think the statistic just a couple of years ago, and I bet it's changed even higher now, but it's pretty high, 95% of, and when I say recruiters, I'm talking about either contingency recruiters or recruiters in companies. They go to LinkedIn first, and the percentage is like 95%. They go to LinkedIn. Now, what's the first thing they see on LinkedIn? Your name, your title, but your about section. What's in the about section? It's your bio. So you wouldn't just leave your, and frankly, no matter how technical your job is, research and development or IT or anything, you don't want that about section to just be a slap in of your resume. You want it to tell your story. That is a bio. And so what we have seen develop over the last few years is that it's kind of been a reverse engineered thing. A lot of recruiters like seeing, even for a technical job, and remember, recruiters are also internal recruiters, but that bio gives them a way to hear how the pieces fit together. I said in the presentation, connect the dots, but it's not surprising that you haven't seen any. I think it's a competitive advantage to have it. So I just encourage, even in a technology job or in a technical accounting job or something like that, it is a still very beneficial tool to use. But yeah, not everybody does it. That's one of the reasons Jeff has this presentation, that a lot of people don't bother with it. A lot of people haven't used it, but it is a very powerful and very positive document to use. Does that answer your question, Jeff? Okay, good. Thank you.
Now, do you mind if I add on to that?
Oh, no, please. Yeah.
You know, I push the bio, the one-page bio, as a great way to network with people. Because when you're going to have a networking meeting, if you're going to have a Zoom meeting with somebody, or you're going to meet, if you decide to meet them at Starbucks and you're sitting 6 feet apart, whatever you're doing, if you can send that bio to somebody before you meet them, number one, I know what you look like, so I don't have to look you up on LinkedIn to see what you look like. And I sort of have an idea of who you are and what you do and how you can, you know, what your background is. It's sort of it's a great tool, I think, that whenever you're networking and doing an information interview, that's the document you may want to send beforehand so people sort of know who you are. And, you know, even though you're going to find out mostly about them, hopefully they'll eventually ask about you a little bit when you do an information interview. So I believe that in any networking opportunity, this is a great document to be spreading around and handing out to people, because I don't believe you need to not use a resume, or do not send out a resume unless you have a job description, because you want that resume to fit exactly for whatever the job description is, so that when a recruiter is looking at it, they go, yep, this is who I need to hire.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it is the networking application that makes this a beautiful document. And it is, I think what you said, Jeff, is exactly right. It really does give the person you're meeting, again, it takes that, if you hand them a resume, I'm looking for a job. If you give them a bio, here's who I am. So I just think it's a really essential tool for networking. I agree with you.
Right.
We had somebody else raise their hand.
Yeah, Cliff, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to add on just one tidbit in response to the last gentleman's point. I too have been in a lot of hiring scenarios, but I have to say I really like this bio approach. And you know, they say the first thing you do when you come into an interview is you hand them a paper copy of your resume, right? And if you're handing them a copy of this bio as well, it's a leave behind. It makes an impression, and it's something that not everybody is doing. And hopefully that's something that helps to distinguish and differentiate you as well.
Thank you, Cliff. I agree with that 100%. Anybody who asks for your resume, automatically send them your bio too. And like you're saying, you want to take in a copy of your resume for an interview, take your bio too. I mean, they should be married up like peanut butter and jelly. So yeah, I think that's right.
On Facebook, Christina asked, should you list your accomplishments on your bio?
You select the accomplishments that you want to go on your bio. So if we go back to the first paragraph, in some of your essence factor and some of your personal introduction, you might drop something in there. Award-winning program manager, whatever. In the second paragraph, when you're talking about your current job or your most recent job, that's where you want to select your one or two, like, fireworks best accomplishments, and pop those into your second paragraph about your most recent job or jobs. And then in the third paragraph, you want to take one or two accomplishments. You know, I worked with XYZ organization during which I reduced cost of sales, cost of goods sold by 35%. Bam! I mean, you put that in the bio, but you don't burden it. You don't just put 15 of them. You just pick one or two, because all you want to put bait, like this is bait. You know, it's like, you need to talk to me because I'm really hot. And so that's definitely, you put little, it's like a cherry pick, the best ones. And yes, you put those in your bio, and then you put all the rest. And you, again, all of them should be tied up. I can't say this enough. What's your bullseye? What's your objective? What's your goal? Everything on your resume, everything on your bio should have a direct line of sight to that target. Even if it was great, unless it was magnificent, but it's, I'm the best basket weaver in the city, that doesn't belong there, because who cares? So you want to pick the ones that really line up to your goal.
Right. All right. Any other questions on Zoom? If you do, you raise your hand or unmute your mic, let us know. Any more questions? All right, well, nobody.
Wow, Jeff, we've answered them all.
We're done.
Wow.
We can now celebrate the weekend, I think.
Yes.
Well, Minna, thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it. Like I said, I highly recommend this book, Be Sharp. You can get it on Amazon, or, get it directly from Minna. If you're going to send her a LinkedIn connection, please be sure to send a personal note that you appreciated what.
Can I comment on that?
Yes.
Someone yesterday, and I apologize, I forgot the name. Somebody yesterday looked my profile up on LinkedIn, read enough about it to realize a couple of common denominators we had, connections, sent me an invitation last night with a lovely comment and said, I'm looking forward to your presentation tomorrow. I noticed that we have this and this in common. It's an LSU Tiger. I remember, whoever you are, speak up. And I thought, you know what, Jeff, you are doing a good job, because that was exactly the right way to do it. And I accepted that invitation. So I automatically reject anybody who sends me a LinkedIn. I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn. If it just comes like that, unless I instantly know their name and they're as close to me as my daughter, I will accept that, but nobody else. I delete them instantaneously. So good job, whoever did that last night.
Well, congratulations, whoever did that. That's wonderful. Thank you very much for doing it. So Minna, once again, thank you very, very much.
You're very welcome.
Just for a reminder, if anybody is not receiving emails from the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group, if you're on Zoom, please be sure to put your information in the chat area. Oops, I don't know why that continues to do that. If you're on Facebook, you can send me an email to txjmorr@yahoo.com. I will make sure I get you invited. Send me your contact information, and we will be able to do that. Next Friday, John Jacobs, the Executive Vice President of the Richardson Chamber of Commerce, will be with us to talk about what's going on in Richardson. He knows all. And if he doesn't know about it, that means you probably don't need to know about it either, because he knows what's going on. He is very well connected in the Richardson area. He's been there for years. So please, and he's also an expert chess, if I'm not mistaken, he's a master chess player. So don't challenge him in chess. Please be sure to join us. We're putting on seminars every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Coming up next Tuesday, Terry Sullivan from BuzzPro will be with us to talk about LinkedIn, and he's got a bunch of brand new material that he wants to present. On Wednesday, Mark Mcdonald will be with us for Interviewing Wednesdays, How to Be a Confident Candidate, Lessons from the Pit Crew. And then starting in August, we will start back over with the 13-part series that Mark and Walt have put together on interviewing. And then on Thursday, next Thursday, Effective Resumes. Be sure to join us. And actually, it's got the wrong date on it. That'll be next week, the 30th. No, actually, it is the 23rd. Yep. Effective Resumes. So please join us next Thursday. So just a reminder, these sessions have been recorded. They will be on the Career DFW Facebook page. You'll be on the Career USA YouTube channel. Please check and follow and subscribe to both. So if you want to go back and watch this presentation, do any screen captures, do whatever you need to, you can do that. Minna did send me the presentation, so I will send out the PDF this afternoon along with my email with the roster and all the details of everybody's job search and everything. Just as a reminder that if you have not put your contact information, name, phone, email address, position you're looking for, 2 or 3 target companies, please open up the chat box. Please do that there. For those on Facebook, you're welcome just to email me the details if you don't want to make it public, because it will be there forever and ever. So you're welcome just to Facebook me and tell me that information. For those on Facebook, if you're not following us on Facebook, this screen's, I'm going to redo this weekend. Hopefully, number one, you go to the red arrow and you click like. When you do that, you'll then able to, every time we go live, every time Career DFW goes live, you'll be alerted and you'll find out about it. If you click on the green arrow where it says more, it'll open up that box right above it, and that's where you'll find all the videos, and you can see all the videos are all grouped together by subject matter, so you can see all the North Dallas group, all the interviewing, all the resume classes are all together. On YouTube, click on the playlist button where the green arrow is, and down at the bottom, you'll see all the different playlists that I've put together. And then you can click at the very bottom where it'll say view playlist for that particular playlist, and you'll see all the things that have been put into that session, and it should be by newest event first. So thank you very much for joining us. Minna, once again, thank you very much for your time. Have a great weekend. I'll leave this up for a little bit in case you need to add more stuff into the chat box. So make sure I have everybody's information. There is a person, David, Gail B, Conroy's iPhone, and Anthony. I'm not sure what your last names are, and I want to make sure I can include you in the roster. So if you haven't done so, please be sure to put your information in the chat box so I can get it updated and everything. So everybody have a great weekend. Minna, did I see your hand up again?
I just wanted to say, I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Jeff, again, for allowing me to talk to your guys. It's always a fabulous group. And I just want to say to each one of you, this too shall pass. You guys are going to get it. You've got great resources available here. And I'm very confident that your future is going to evolve in a positive way. So if there's any way I can help, I would be happy to do so. Thanks again, Jeff.
Great, Minna, thank you very, very much. So everybody have a great weekend, and hopefully we'll see you next week at one of our sessions. And next Friday, everything you want to know about Richardson.
Thank you.